Almost like I brought a bow and arrow to a gunfight. I'm out of my league, I didn't know what this
Welcome to How to Create Your Own Equity. A little bit of tongue and cheek, because if we don't laugh, we will cry. The whole aim is to inspire and ignite humanity, because at the moment we actually have a lot of inhumanity. So although I navigate it with a little bit of wit, I am very serious. Like and subscribe for more. And if you want to find out a little bit more of the hows on the topics that I'm going to cover, you will see my Substack while I delve deeper into giving people tools. What is the topic for this one? Do as I say and not as I do. And where am I going to take this over the next few minutes? This is about accountability. It's about leadership in different countries, saying things but not doing those, and exposing that and holding them to account. One. We also delve into two, the use of religion as a tool to manipulate. So let's hold them to account in some of those 10 commandments. Two. And three, we also delve into my world of AI governance, because we are trying to build a world where we're saying we need responsible AI, we need ethical AI, and we are holding AI to actually a higher account than we are as humans. And as humans, be it in the past or certainly in the present, I'm going to highlight exactly what's happening. And we can't expect to be telling our children, if AI was a child, something, and us as humans doing something else. So let's go there. What do we see? We have seen the banning of political memes coming from Texas. So, people, if you decide to post a political meme, you could have a 4,000 fine or ching, 1 year in jail. Imagine that. The use of free speech, the use of memes to point out issues that we have within our political system. But hey, if you are Trump, you can post yourself, this is actually quite traumatizing, as the Pope, people. You can use the manipulation of AI to create the Gaza Strip Riviera. You can use the creation of AI to position yourself as a person of faith, which you are clearly not, and a position that you are manipulating strong rounds of Christianity. There is a commandment which says, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have strange gods before me. I think they forgot that one. And all of this, all of their agenda was in an episode that I did, which uncovered Project 2025. And his whole plan is actually there for you. Believe it when you see it, it's actually quite terrifying. And as I also uncovered, Trump 2028, although it's completely unconstitutional, it's not impossible, and the loopholes are there. And we already have the selling of the MAGA hat, positioning him into that. Believe it when you see it. Let's go a little bit further in terms of what we're saying, do as I say and not as I do. In many companies, we talk about, well, actually, we're having a little bit of what I call Olympics vocabulary changes at the moment, because words like diversity, equity, and inclusion are banned. But hey, let's talk about equality. We're saying that we want equal and fair world. We're saying that we want to have responsible decision making with our AI to lead to better decisions. But what did we have coming out of UK courts this week? Trans people are not allowed to pee, essentially. They have to hold their legs. And anyone, if you're at a certain age, it becomes quite hard when you need to, frankly, go to the toilet. And if you're a trans woman, you're not allowed to be in the same space. Well, let me tell you are welcome within our space. It's not my space, it's our space. I'm frankly tired of the conflict around spaces, be it a toilet, be it Gaza, be it Ukraine, be it Sudan. The fight over and struggles over power, if we put that energy into saving our planet, we'll be in a better space anyway. I digress. But all of this means that the data that we are giving AI and the systems that we're giving AI for it to interpret are absolute shite, quite frankly, because we won't even treat people in our real world with decent humanity. And it's coming into being that it's a very hard law. It never covered trans men. So what do? And if we actually go back to indigenous populations, as I've covered before, there is already in history the identification of people who identify with being different genders and just allowing people to be, to belong. What we're creating is a society where people don't feel that they belong and they don't feel safe. Let's hit another commandment. Thou shalt not kill. But if you can give us a few billions, we will. Back in January was the announcement of around 8 billion in terms of arms going to Gaza. And then in March, they rushed through 3 billion to bulldoze that land flat on a genocide which is happening in plain sight. Thou shalt not steal. They have bulldozed and flattened the land of Gaza for Trump to quite admittedly say, I'm just going to take it. Now, Europe have stood up and said, oh, well, no, we don't think it's quite right. You just take it. In a matter of hours for Europe to send help, but we are well into a year. Over 60,000 people being murdered, being slaughtered, and going through a genocide, but nothing has been done. We'll come back to that in a minute. And when people do try to step in and help, a humanitarian ship, a war crime, has been shot down by a drone. And we have again another commandment: thou shalt not covet thy neighbor of goods. And I am throwing scripture around because these people are saying that they're acting in the name of religion. They're saying that they have lands in the name of a religion, but this is not religion. Next commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. We have seen the sending of a US citizen to Venezuela against all due process, and then the editing of a photo to put an MS-13 tattoo onto that person's hands, which Trump denies was photoshopped. The complete depths of depravity that is happening here. I'm not actually going to say it's beyond belief because I believe it, but you need to see it and understand it and start questioning these behaviors of what we're seeing from people in offices, actually not just within the US, but across the world. How far, though, is the US willing to go? Because it's been a pretty disastrous 100 days. They would like to have you think that it hasn't. Trump made claims about oil prices being down, but in fact, they're not. The average oil price is around 316. So it's gone up. They would have you believe the cost of eggs has gone down. So you in your daily basket, hey, that was the promise. We're going to help you and bring the cost of living down. But it's actually increased 26%. And the average dozen on a fact check has gone up from $4.95 to $6.23. And Trump would have you think that he's doing a great job, which I'll show you in a minute. But his approval rating is at 44%. The second worst in history, only to himself in 2017, 41%. And Trump likes to harp on about merit. But if this was anyone else in terms of poor performing, no one would have it. And if you really want the whammy, S&P is at a negative, never seen under the presidency before in the first 100 days, of -8%. Yes, we're talking negative -8% in his disastrous tariff policy that he's brought in, because he never expected the interconnectedness of the world, the long-term strategy that China's bringing into play. So let's have a listen, though, to what he wants you to believe, because they believe if they say it enough, some mugs, some lemmings will believe it.
He's actually doing the things that he promised that he would do. And Mr. President, it's been an honor to be part of it for the past 100 days.
Mr. President, the last 4 years, the world experienced a total lack of zero leadership under Biden. And then we had 100 days of your leadership with respect, with strength.
President, your first 100 days has far exceeded that of any other presidency in this country, ever. Ever. Never seen anything like it. Thank you.
President Trump, in your first term, when I had a chance to work with you as governor, you were courageous. The thing that's empowering this amazing group of people around this table, and you've probably assembled the greatest cabinet ever, is that this time you're not just courageous, you're actually fearless.
Yeah, you might also be shocked. I don't know what Kool-Aid they were drinking or what they were actually smoking. But let's back up with a couple of things. Yes, he is implementing everything that he said he was. Please go and read Project 2025. He is not having the best 100 days ever. They were all singing from the same hymn sheet, so completely choreographed. So tired of hearing Biden as their deflection. And if you think about it, actually, there was this he struggled. He remembered, oh, I have to mention a comparison to go back to Biden because that will speak to the base. You actually wanted to throw up and be a little bit sick in terms of just how cringeworthy that was. The US don't have a coverage that they have to present both sides. They can spew whatever they want on a channel and manipulate a base if they are not doing any critical thinking. And I hope that's not you. I can tell you I was recently in Denmark, and within the supermarkets, they have a star. The star counts for US products and non-US products. And consumers are choosing to buy non-US products. In fact, there's a boom for certain colas, which are made within Denmark. And this is not just within Denmark. You have Europe now re-questioning and looking at tech and thinking, how can we be more independent and move from this connection of the very strong relationship that we have with the US that benefited the US people? This US president has now destroyed the ties of trust. And those ties of trust are linked to the US economic gain, which is now having an impact. And if you think about that -8% in S&P, that's just the short-term consequences. In the long-term consequences, we have countries like China quietly diversifying from the US treasuries, carrying that debt of the US, Japan being number one. And that is something I warned about in one of my earlier episodes when we think about that long-term strategic play that countries like China and Japan have. Trump being a very short-term, shoot from the hip, tactical man versus the long-term strategic player, and surrounding himself with primarily yes men, as we saw from that video and as we've seen from a previous episode that I've done, is not having any benefits because you cannot see what you cannot see. And the world is moving into a different direction, however much he likes to have an ego that he's the king or pope of the world. That said, in a world where humans show some lives are worth more than others just because of the color of their skin or the faith that they hold, we have seen over 60,000, I think this is completely underestimated, slaughtered in a genocide, let alone now how many people are being starved to death within Gaza. And as I mentioned earlier, there has been a very unbelievably quick response from Europe. Now, I'm not saying we don't hold the environment and our planet. So it was a matter of hours before many countries sent planes and aid to the wildfires within Israel. But at what point do we consider a Palestinian life worth saving? So a couple of things I want to start to leave you with and to reflect is, if you were to teach AI anything, if it went on the data from our actions of prioritization of colonial and the patriarchal models of power that we live in. If you watch Settlers by the BBC, it was sad, terrifying, and took you into the psyche of what we see happening. You actually just need to see not only what's being said, but what's being done. Where does the money flow? European institutions and companies are actually funding illegal settlements. And illegal settlements, if you watch Settlers, is a war crime. They know it's wrong, but they do it anyway. How the heck do we expect AI to be performing how we say it should if we are not doing those actions ourselves? We need structural change. And there is where I'm going to come to my point where I lost it this week, and I published my next Substack was not on a functional understanding of AI to help you navigate it in finance, for example. It was actually on the bias angle, because I don't believe it is complex. It is not a complex issue. It's because we have a triad, usually, as one of my great mentors said, to choose from. There's logical reasons or logical process that we need to follow of how do you resolve it. There is the emotional, and there's the relational. And because I straddle the world of human rights, transformation, and tech, yeah, the logical tools are there. I'm not going to go into them in depth, but we can clean up data. We can put retrieval augmented generative models, which provide you with a library, and you can build a library to make sure and de-bias your data and that you have representative data, short-term memory into place to understand where there might be discrepancies on why people are being taught different. So the logic is actually there. Fundamentally, we have to choose whether we're going to do it or not. And this leads to emotion. It is usually completely uncomfortable for some people when we start talking about these topics. You might be uncomfortable right now because you're being faced with the bias of, yeah, we are treating people in this different way. What does that say about me? But don't make it about you. I'm not saying that you created this world because it was created centuries ago. Centuries ago, we are trying to undo centuries of bias, or we have to, because it's the very foundation that AI sits on. But you are responsible to start that action now. But that uncomfortableness of that emotion of what you see being played out on screens, the evil that you see being played out. And Trump would like you to see no evil, hear no evil, because he's even removing all of that, stripping away and banning words and banning publications and actually free speech, unless it's him doing free speech. But that emotional piece is part of the first thing that you need to get over, the mindset that says we have a systematically biased problem and we need to start doing something about it. And however much that makes you feel uncomfortable, we have to. And I don't buy into the whole conscious unconscious thing, because we are completely conscious of it. We saw George Floyd have the breath squeezed out of him. We've seen Gaza play out on our screens again and again. If you're not conscious of that, I don't know. But then there's a third element, which then comes in once you're conscious about it. It then becomes political. Because the political part of it is when you actually start to have to make the structural changes in order for this to happen, you start to shift the power away from where it is, the patriarchal power, the colonialist power, the capitalist power that's there. It shifts. And the people that hold the power don't want you to be shifting that. So that's therefore where it comes down. Because in the decision of the logic, I can give that to you. It's on my Substack. This is how you resolve the bias. But what you need to face is the emotional decision and the political decision. And if anything, what's happening though is we're seeing more swings to the right. We just had reform gain ground in the political system in the UK. This far right growth is not just in the US, it's all over. Why? I come back to the political. It is to maintain the current position of power. And the tactic therein lies, and it's been around certainly since the times of enslavement. By the way, you should be grateful because you're not at least being treated as bad as those people. So it's making you believe that you should be grateful, and we're going to give you some eggs and a little bit of fear, so you're not going to be treated like that person. Therein, we've had people in handcuffs who've just written speeches, not committed any violence, they just spoke up. The power of the pen, they wrote an essay, or they marched, and they're put in handcuffs, their scholarships taken away from universities, or they're sent to Venezuela. Or there's the other one, the other side that says, it's them over there, the foreigner, the person with a different faith, the person with a different color. Look, they're taking all your small crumbs of your cookie. Ignore this stuff up here that we're actually giving away as massive tax breaks, people. Because that's what's always been the strategy and the tactic that we have seen play out. So what do we need to do? If we come full circle, and yes, we take a little bit of wit. If we were to do as I say and do as I do, if you want to be part of that as a user of AI, as an architect of AI, or as a company implementing AI, make sure you understand what data does it rely on and that data is clean. Anyway, when you come to implementing it, if you don't have great data, it's SHIT in, SHIT out. And if you have biased data in, you're just perpetuating. Secondly, you need to shift your mindset. We need to start admitting that we have a significant bias problem created over centuries. And you need to start understanding that and the powers that be and the games that they're playing, as I've just iterated around that puppet game of making you think and create fear, essentially. Then you need to start building fairer context models for your systems. And then you need the library, essentially. And then you need to start building a way and a mechanism to understand, are people being taught or thought about or treated, differently? I'm trying to avoid the technical names. And when you do those together, when we work together to use these in a responsible way, then we will be doing what we say. Because actually we'll be holding people accountable to the world that we wish to live in. So that was a little bit of crossover between what we're seeing in the world, the patterns that we see in humanity or in humanity and bias, a little bit of holding people accountable to do as they say and as they do, and a little bit about how that reflects into the world that we're building with AI being at the not foundation, because humans are at the foundation, but with AI being part of it. Like, subscribe. If you want to find out more, join my Substack.
I need you to take my pain and make it create something beautiful. Take my soul.